Mm. Okay, we are live. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Candace, and I am here with Kimberley Elliott. And it's her birthday today, so wish her happy birthday, everyone.
Thanks,
She's so
Candace.
kind to be here with me today when she's got a birthday. But I am excited to have Kim with me because I love her. That should
I
be
love you
reason
back.
enough.
I love you back.
But Kim has been a coach for over 20 years and has a leadership wellness program that she runs, well, coaching that she runs. And she's got a really unique and interesting history, personal history, that I think speaks to both the concepts of resiliency, like up to here, as well as to this notion we've talked about it before around acceptance and like how do you work through the hard stuff and come out the other side. So, why don't you tell us, if you can, Kim, or as much as you want to share about your
Yeah,
own story and like the pieces that have really helped you through it?
yeah. I'll try to keep it brief. It's a long story, but I love that you said the word acceptance, first of all, because that's such a big word for me that has been sort of a thread through my journey. And I guess even before my journey story, I would love to invite people that are live or anyone that's watching the recording later, just to take a moment to like plant your feet, sit a little taller, and take a couple breaths and really be here. So as I share and Candace shares, you can be tuned into your body and what's coming up for you, because that's always a greater way to find that insight, is being a little just 10% more present. How can I do that? So just plant our feet, sit tall. Take a breath. Okay, cool. Yeah, my story. Oh my gosh. Well, I've been coaching for a long time. I was thinking about this last night. Like, what do I want to say? And I was thinking about how if I go all the way back to childhood, just like who was I when I was born? And I know I was very energetic. I am energetic, sensitive, kind of tuned into the world around me and a little bit overwhelmed by it at times. And thinking about just the messages I received from a not so helpful family, I guess I'll say, an environment. And some of the messages I got was like, you're too much, and you're not enough, like two conflicting messages, which was really confusing. And then that sort of translated for me into this like not safe feeling. And what happened from all of that, it was I developed a very critical inner mean girl, I call it. And my body was tight a lot. I felt a lot of internal pressure that came in, and ultimately kind of became hyper vigilant in my world, like always like, what's going on? Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? And I always was a happy, kind of fun go lucky person. And so until I became a young woman and sort of moved away from the home, I just sort of thought, oh, this is the way life is, this is how it is. And then I started my journey probably around age 17, 16. And I just want to, I guess the point of me is like saying this backstory to the backstory is that, like, we all have crap that comes up that maybe doesn't resonate with who we are as a person. Somebody doesn't get us, or we have an experience, and we move through it in certain ways because we have our natural strengths and the ways that we show up. And then sometimes the biggie comes, or a big thing that feels big. Maybe it's not so big to other people, but what we experience is the big thing. And for me, it was about, gosh, I think it's been a decade now, which is crazy for me to say that. Yeah, I was cruising along, doing my business. I had moved to the mountains, kind of living the dream life, skiing, which was my passion. And the piece I want to say that's interesting is I felt like there was still, like, I wasn't playing full on, even though I was really doing a lot, doing a lot. I should say it that way. And it was like the week before, I decided, you know what? I'm going for the next level. Like, I need to quit playing small. I really want to step into my business in a bigger way. I want to be seen more. I want to be out in the world. It's okay. My energy has value. Like, I was really coming to terms through work that I had done and embodiment practice I had done. And as soon as I decided that, I was like, take it out. And I had gone camping. I came home and there was fevers and I was sick and no one could figure out what was wrong with me. And that went on for a year of like brain fog, not knowing what was happening, hormone up and down, a lot of different physiological things happening. And then, of course, psychological things happening because I was saying, what's wrong with me? And then visiting doctors who were saying, you're making it up. There's nothing wrong. And it was really hard because I was so in an excited place. And then it just felt like that roller coaster drops you. And it turned out to be Lyme's disease. A year later, I finally got a diagnosis. I had to move and seek out doctors to get help, to find the people that would believe me that something was off. And that started about a 7 or 8 year journey of healing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just pause there and breathe that in. I don't know if anything's coming up for you, Candace, that you want to ask, or I can go on.
No, I mean, I think the piece that I think, well, I'm curious about the next part, right? Because there's a lot in that, right? Like, you've had this history in your childhood of like all this upheaval. You're at a point in your life where the bottom kind of dropped out. You were ready to kind of leap into your business, and the bottom dropped out. So there's these things, like, you've got this internal dialogue that's already the inner critic. You've got this excitement,
the striving that was there,
the drive, and then this health thing happens. And it is, and this is not necessarily a medical show, but for those of you who are not as familiar with Lyme's, it is like a white knuckling climbing out of a pit for healing. Like, it is a long journey. And so this is, for me, the interesting part with Kim is like, dealing with all of that. And you, because I've known you now for a few years, of like that, what are the pieces, like what kept you going through and kept you resilient and coming?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question.
The end of this other healing journey. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think the biggest piece for me was, thank goodness I already was like involved in embodiment skills. I had been, teaching already for 14 years, embodiment group classes. And, so I had like some awareness of like feeling in my body, like what was happening internally for me, not just my thoughts and my emotions around it, but the actual sensations that were there. And it's interesting because I feel like that became, it's like I just surrendered to that becoming my guidance system. Mm-hmm. Yes, of course I worked with doctors. Of course I talked to alternative people. Of course I did lots of different, visits and appointments and checking on things. But the bottom line of what came in for me was, I really have to listen. I really have to get even quieter. I really need to get even slower, which was pretty easy because I had zero energy at that point. But see, there's a difference between like getting slow and like being angry about it, right? Mm-hmm. And getting slow and like accepting, like, this is my situation right now. What's the gift in it, or what can it offer me? And, probably when I was that slow and someone said, "Oh, what's the gift for you?" I probably would have slapped them or something.
That was think of a lot of expletives that probably could have.
Right. But because I really believe that because I had already started doing some work on myself over the decades and had this sort of tuned in part of me, I was able to trust that and just sort of like let go of the worry of what people were thinking or what they thought I needed. Because I made some pretty radical decisions throughout my treatment that, you know, even doctors or other people were saying, like, what are you doing? That's not the right way to go. And, you know, I would say in my past, I had a flavor of people pleasing in me. And maybe my old MO might have been like, oh, okay, I'll go over here because this is, you know, what you need me to do to feel comfortable. And I really didn't listen to that voice. Like, I was really able to say, thank you for your input. I'm not actually asking for feedback right now. And I go away and be quiet with myself. And it wasn't just about being quiet. It was also about practice. And I think that's what's kind of become the thing that I'm on a soapbox about lately with coaching is like, coaching is not an insta solution. You might in one session have some amazing epiphany or, you know, access something that you hadn't before that feels really huge. But in terms of like the big picture of like, who do I want to be in the world? What am I stand for? How can I really show up for my best self? There is a journey and, and there's some commitment involved, right? To be able to like stay with the commitment even when it gets tough. And I mean, with Lyme's, I almost say it was a little bit easier because death wasn't an option for me. Right. So I was like, okay, I'm committed, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to look into these things. I'm going to begin another practice and
Sure. When
really,
you're on the ropes,
yeah,
that's like a big decision, right? It's like, okay, what am I choosing here? And there's a
yeah,
couple of things, if I can jump in. One
yeah,
is that trust that you said, like that inner guidance system that you were very like unfailingly trusting of, which is a practice unto itself, right? And that's
yeah,
probably the years of work that you've already done, and that continual practice of that, of going quiet, listening, like what is my inner knowing saying?
yeah,
And the acceptance piece, which I think is interesting, because I think the differentiate, like there's acceptance, which is like, here's where I'm at and here's how I'm going to go forward. So I wanted to like clarify that versus acceptance of like, well, I'm just gonna, lay
yes,
down and die in this moment, which is not what you did, right? You were choosing to like go forward
yeah.
slowly,
And I mean,
steadily. Yeah.
making a distinction, even like, here's where I am, I'm going to go forward, like having a plan that maybe felt like a little bit of a relief. Like it felt a relief when I got a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's even like, it goes even deeper, right? To this place of like, I mean, the simple way we put it in coaching is values, like what's important, what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Wellness has always been like one of my top 5 values my whole life. And adventure, like, of course, when you're sick and you can't walk for more than 5 minutes at a time, you can't really go skiing or go out and enjoy the things that you enjoy. And so there was high potential to go into depressive state, right? Just like, oh my God, my life is not how I know it. Yes, I had some emotional moments, but there was something about my mindset of knowing like this is part of my journey and it's actually like I always believed in my mind I always saw the pinpoint of light at the end of the tunnel. I will get through this, and not from a like forcing space, but like, oh, the universe has a little journey for me to get to this next place that I need to get to. Okay. You know, and yes, creating a plan was helpful. Yes, having a meditation practice was helpful. Yes, laying in bed when I couldn't go walking and doing visualization was helpful. Yes, I used strategies. But before I could even like commit to that, I sort of had to like I do the body move, right? It's like, oh, I just need to surrender to it
Mm-hmm.
because the fighting of it internally for me was such a drain.
Yeah.
And so I had to, I just knew like I've just got to let go, let be, and take it one hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, whatever it was. You know, some days were great, some days were challenging, very
Mhm.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that because as you know, Julie and I work a lot with burnout, and there's so many like parallel threads within that in
Yeah.
terms of it is a journey to heal, and there is a lot of, I would say, practices that are also required, like the commitment to the self and listening to that inner guidance system and taking it day by day and knowing that it is not a quick fix. But there is these slow, steady pace,
Progress.
progress kind of typically looks a little like this. But so I think your journey is so interesting because it really parallels what a lot of women, I think, experience with the whole burnout, where it's,
Yeah.
it is this like, can feel like your body is failing you. But I like to look at it as your body is giving you a lot of signals that we're taking this off ramp and going this way for a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
As a so what would you say in terms of your, the nuggets and the kernels of
Mm.
wisdom that you would pass along to people, women who are,
Mhm.
whether it be chronic disease, whether it be burnout, whether it be something else? What are the things that you think were the most?
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night. Like, what are the things I see, and then like, what are some tips, right?
Mhm.
Because the overdoing is just part of our culture. I'm American, you're Canadian, but I mean, I won't speak for Canada, but in the US, my experience, it's like there's always this go, 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 go.
Mhm.
And as women leaders, which are who I work with, we tend to put everybody first above ourselves as
Mhm.
this selfless act, perhaps, or as a habit that we've gotten into. And um, I know it's corny to say the whole airplane thing, put your mask on first, but there really is something to that of like, am I really listening to my body and creating supporting rituals that feed my values, that feed my ability to be alive and strong and present, or am I going, and everything's just sort of flying out the car windows as I'm driving kids to soccer or whatever it is, right?
I
So,
have a very strong visualization of that.
I mean, I'm not even a mom, and I don't even know how moms do it because yes, I am cleared of Lyme and my body is strong now, and I still have moments that come up. It's not like it's an ending, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
I survived and now I am this, blah, 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 whatever. This is life. Like there's always pressures and things coming at us all the time. And so then it's about, okay, how do I work with my inner self so that I can, like, I call it, be in the eye of the storm, of the tornado, where there's sort of like a centered calmness, and be able to have choices and possibilities that I can actually step into with some grace, with some intention, with some gratitude. That was the other thing I was going to name that really helped me on my journey. Yeah, so centering, of course, is my number one go-to and has been forever. And I'll come back to that because I'm offering a free masterclass on that in the coming month, and we could talk
Yeah.
about that. I also feel like there's just this slowing down, and whenever I say that, like, I always feel the eyes rolling because
I know.
it's just like, I don't have time to slow down. It's like, and what's the cost of that to you? Right? Like what's happening due to that? Um, yeah. So that's a tricky one. I feel like,
Mhm.
what are you committed to? Like, what's important? What's the
Yeah.
cost if you don't?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's key, right? And the slowing down, I mean, it doesn't have to be that you're taking 4 days off a week or whatever. It's like those moments of pause
Moments of pause.
where you can, do the centering, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I think that's really important, especially in the category of women leaders or people leaders, is this, like, yes, you can burn the candle at both ends, but for how long? right? And then who are you good to? You're not good to anybody. So if you really want, to keep going, and there's a pace, like it's a
Yeah.
marathon, not a sprint pace. And I think, like you're saying, Americans tend to be go, go, go. Canadians are driven. Maybe it looks a little different here, but I think there is still this, like, if you're not doing, then what value do you have? So there's a lot of unpacking.
Yes, and who are you attracting, right? Like, what are you calling in when you have this, that I think it's Wendy Palmer, or maybe it's Mark Walsh, when the energy, like when we get the pressure and it's like, oh, it's too much. It's like we're really going up and out. And I think of it like not like a beautiful fountain that's recirculating, but sort of like a fire hose that's getting people wet that don't want to get wet. It's like, like stop already. Right. So who are you attracting? Who are you repelling when you're in that energy, versus centering is that down and in, and I can actually stand tall and take a stand for something while that tornado is swirling. And I've learned over the years, when that happens, people notice, and there's a connection possibility that happens with I want to say the right people, or let's say the helpful people. I'll say it that way. And then, like, literally there's new possibilities that show up from that synergy, from the connection, from that, like, oh, wait, I'm just even maybe sometimes here alone in the center of the tornado, but my body is giving me an idea or an answer or a next step to take. So that always has kept me going in a big way.
Yes, I could say that is definitely one of the prime tools. So, which is a great segue into telling us about your centering masterclass that's coming up.
Yeah. So the centering masterclass, I wanted to teach something this year before the year ended, and I was thinking, like, what would be the most value to women leaders who feel pressure or feel like they're maybe headed towards burnout, or even maybe not showing up in the way they really want to, maybe doing a little hiding or people pleasing. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, it has to be centering, because centering is what allows us to lead with focus, to bring in our confidence in a different way, and to have impact, not just have it be about me, but also to be about, like, well, what are we co-creating here, and how can we do that in a way that is generative and, contributing versus taking away from. So I'm going to do 2 classes the same week at different times in October, the 11th and the 13th. And we'll really be playing with how to increase your awareness so you can actually access the body wisdom, right? How to stay clear and purposeful even when that tornado is swirling and the pressure is on, and how to be a little bit more adaptable and responsive without ruining yourself, right? Go into that old habit of, like, saying yes when you mean no, or running like a chicken with your head cut off. So it's going to be interactive. It's an hour and a half. It's free, and you're invited.
Yay. We'll put the link below once we're done here. And Kim, I think you also have something free that they can get on your website as well.
Yeah, it's a free, like a PDF that also has a recording of a centering practice in it.
Oh, great. Okay.
So it's like a little write-up on, like, some simple tactics to be more authentic and centered, and then a recording. And if you sign up for the workshop too, you get it as well. So
great. So they can use, we'll put both links in. And
because some people that maybe don't have time to do the workshop, and they need to just get that info, so they can do that. Yeah. I mean, it's an ongoing journey. There's not a one fixed solution. That's what I love about embodiment, is, like, there's so many ways in. And so you get to really decide, like, how does centering work for me? What's my way to find? Yeah. And I think that's a lot of what we'll look at as well in the workshop is, how do I modify it so it works for me, and I can actually create a practice around it versus talking about it and not making any change.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I love so much about this kind of work with this style of coaching. with the embodiment is that it is really, you're not talked at, you're an active participant, right? Like you're learning and you're noticing and you're feeling and you're experiencing, which makes, I think, all the difference. We can know something here, which is the stories in our head, but to know something with our entire being is a whole other thing unto itself.
Do we have time to do like a quick little movement thing, or are we done? Because I have a fun thing that people can take to do at home.
Let's do it. Let's do it. That'll be the way that we.
It's really silly, but it's very interesting to see what your body does when you do this. So imagining like you have windshield wipers and to start moving them to match how your energy right now is running. Like if you're excited, maybe they're going a little bit faster. If you're exhausted, maybe they're really slow. Who knows? And so finding that, there's the windshield wipers, and then doing it half speed. Noticing what that is like and what you do in your body. What happens with your breathing. What happens with your thoughts. Can you maintain it?
Oh.
Yeah, maybe you take a sigh and then halving that speed.
Oh, interesting.
Coming down a little bit more. Noticing what your nervous system is telling you now. And then when you feel ready, just turning off your windshield wipers. Taking a moment to feel that.
Wow. Wow.
That's what I leave you with.
There, which you and I can chat about after.
Yeah, we can chat about that later.
Very cool. I love that.
Oh, thank you, Candace, so much for having me on your Facebook Live. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to connect with you.
Yes, thank you for coming. I always love chatting with you. So to wrap up, to complete our little cycle, we'll put Kim's links below so you can access her centering, either the masterclass or the handouts, whatever your preference. And a reminder to those of you in our group and everywhere that are Embracing Rest course, this is the last day for the early bird. So I'll put the link below for that as well.
It's going to be a good one.
Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.